The one other thing that really has been difficult for me and is also, I know, a common thread for many people is uh, behaviors that are associated with destructive behaviors that can come into play. It's not unusual for someone to take on behaviors such as gambling, eating disorders, cutting, addictions, going into bad relationships, whatever it may be. There is 1,000 ways to mask the pain that comes with something horrific that takes place with something like a rape. When someone is dealing, in my case, it was crystal meth addiction. I could not leave my house without slamming crystal meth. That is what immediately connected me to my protective mechanisms. I started using meth just at the point of my event. And surprise, surprise, almost immediately after my release from the hospital due to the complications of my rape, I started using meth almost regularly. And before I knew it, I was slamming meth on a daily basis just to get out the door, even to do laundry. I couldn't deal with anything. And without meth, I was sleeping in my closet. I was sleeping under my bed. I was so afraid of men in particular, 40 years of age and over. Many people, it's marrying into abusive relationships. We tend to lose, many of us, I don't feel I'm stepping out of bounds by saying this, our self-respect. We often we lose so much. The act of rape violates all of our emotions, our physical, our spiritual world, our physical world. It is, getting back to it is not an act of sex. It is not a sensual act. It can start out that way, but it is an act of interrogation of all of the senses of our entire body, our entire world. It may start out sexual and end up going completely berserk. And what happens at that point is, and again, really speaking for myself and knowing that there's absolutely a common thread with many of our stories, is everything that I and many of us have believed about mankind, our closest friends, our own families, our coworkers, people on the street, strangers, the people our doorman, whoever it may be, is trashed. It is completely trashed. The trust is gone. Trust is replaced with fear. Touch that used to bring us comfort is gone. For me, sex was destroyed, my humor was destroyed, my trust was destroyed, my ability to write my name was destroyed. Reading basic text at times was destroyed. To read a contract, my bank statement was obliterated. Basic skills for many people is lost. There's so much white noise. If you feel like you're trying to communicate and really help someone and the messages are just filtering right through and you're trying to speak to us and we're not receiving, and that's your main source of frustration, is you're trying to help someone and your messages are completely being lost. They probably are. I'm a firm believer that everything is stored someplace and nothing is completely lost. but it's not being received at that moment. It's not being utilized. And that's because there's so much chaos going on. There's so much searching and trying to understand and reconfigure our thoughts and our trust and feelings that it is just this scramble, this mad scramble to figure things out, and frustration of why isn't it working? Why isn't everything working again? So we are looking at you and we're not hearing a thing. It's not intentional. It's not that we're trying to avoid you. We're just not receiving. And as far as speaking, I know for myself, I gave up many times for two reasons. One, my words would formulate and they're like shards of glass. They were just these crumpled pieces of glass, just in the forms of consonants and vowels and just these chunks of letters all jagged and trying so hard to create words, and they'd stumble about and formulate and fall apart and recirculate and kind of get stuck in my throat, and then they'd be like they were in a tumbler, and they kind of round out and by the time they got to my teeth, they just kind of clink about. And once they reached here, I was so embarrassed, and they come out so mixed up. And eventually I gave up, and I just got so tired of sounding stupid or repeating myself or not making any sense or speaking to someone who really didn't care, or they weren't empathetic enough. It was just too insulting. Too insulting to speak to someone who either didn't get it, didn't care, or weren't capable of understanding on a level that someone in need really needed them to hear. Because frankly, when you're hurting so bad, for someone to compare your suffering to a day of not getting your coffee order right really is another reason for feeling like complete garbage and returning back to that place of nothingness. So those are a few things that really happen behind, really behind the scenes of the eyes of someone who's been through such an act. And I really feel anyone out there who's reaching out is doing so because they love us. And it is absolutely impossible without going through something this traumatic, whether it's rape, whether it's losing a child, whether it's going through a war, without having this experience. And maybe I didn't do something like this so much when I was young, but certainly at this stage of my life, I would. If I know anyone who is really struggling with something, I research it. Education is always the number one thing. That is the key to everything in my life. There are two keys: love and education. I can't heal anything if I don't have a loving, empathetic heart. And I can't heal, help, approach, do anything without a little bit of wisdom. If I know someone who has cancer or any other disease, or are in a situation that I really want to support them with, I can't do it without a little bit of knowledge under my belt, unbiased knowledge. And I'm not talking about, God damn it, I'm going to kick this motherfucker's ass who did this to you. I'm talking, how can I support you on your journey? That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, what is it you're really going through? How can I support this person, even when maybe they're not able to answer questions? How can I just be present, even when maybe they're not even able to have a conversation? How can I be present and be part of a conversation without speaking? These are some of the things that I find to be the most important. Some of the best conversations are without words. And I think that just comes with the empathetic heart. So I say celebrate that someone has really triumphed through something that is completely life changing and is absolutely horrific and is traumatic, and that they have survived it and they are continuing to wake up each day choosing to be alive and making it through this experience. And that there is a possibility, a great possibility, for having a better life. And really acknowledge within yourself what this experience in its entirety is about. That it is not about only the physical action of rape, that there's so much more to it, both the traumatic side and also this really wonderful healing side that can take place, and being sensitive to what all these triggers and all the little mechanisms that we are all, so intuitively inclined to. I mean, our bodies and our minds are so really amazing what takes place. I mean, they really are gifts, how they protect us, all of us, if we were put in any situation. And um, I think we're all so fortunate to have these mechanisms within ourselves that help us get through these situations. I think it's pretty amazing when these horrific things take place that we have an option to grow from them. I'm absolutely not excusing that they are extremely crappy events that take place. For myself, I chose to grow from my experience and hopefully help another person with it. Um, and I think it's pretty great that there's people out there that are willing to support us and to love us through them, and to be part of the journey. And I don't think of it as only an opportunity for myself to grow or someone else in this experience, but I think it's a great way for all of us to learn from each other and to grow through these experiences. So thank you so much for tuning in, as always. And I hope we all have really tremendous full lives, where we each can learn from each other, love with each other, and continue to grow. Thank you. Be well.